Hi there, and welcome to the Disability Law Show. Welcome back for another week. I'm John Scholes, Sivan Tumarkin, available at disabilityrights.ca. Of course, a disability lawyer heading up the firm, always ready for a free chat and answer any questions you may have. You can call on your own time. Pass the number around to friends, colleagues, co-workers if they need it. 1-855-821-5900. Email, which we'll get to a little later on, help@disabilityrights.ca, and I'll give you more contact information throughout the half hour, and we'll take care of you in that regard. We also have a main topic on every show in the second segment. This week, fast facts about anxiety disorders and disability claims. Some phone calls from one of our radio shows, all coming up, so stay tuned for the entire thing. But we warm up, we get rolling. Sivan, with the week that was, case of the day, what do you got going on, pal?
John, I had an interesting call this week. It was a gentleman who called me because a good friend of his watches the show regularly. Nice. And I always love that when people help other people by telling them where to get correct information about long-term disability and issues with insurance companies. And so what happened in this case, which is something that we've seen quite a few times, it does happen, and people don't understand really what to do in that situation. So his friend was denied long-term disability. He applied for long-term disability. Doesn't matter for what, he has an issue. And it sounded like, yeah, he's disabled. His doctors agree he's disabled. But the reason he got a denial from his insurance company is because they said he was approximately a month late making the application. You know, there are timelines for applying for, benefits, just like there is if you have a car accident, for getting benefits for insurance, for et cetera, for these kinds of things. And so they wrote him a letter saying, we're denying your claim because you were late by a month.
Okay.
And he thought, okay, well, I screwed up. I was late. They're correct about that. And so therefore, I am not entitled to long-term disability benefits. Except that this gentleman is in his 30s. And the type of disability he has, he's going to have that for a while. And we're talking about a lot of money here. And but for his friend picking up the phone and calling me, the gentleman who is disabled would have potentially foregone hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let me explain why. Because there is a concept in law that's called relief from forfeiture. I'm not going to go into what that means exactly, except to tell you that insurance companies, if they say that you are late in applying for long-term disability benefits, and the lateness can be explained, we're talking about a matter of days, weeks, months. I've seen it as much as, by the way, a year or two even. If the insurance company says on that basis alone we are denying your claim, they're going to have a problem if this ever goes before a judge, because the judge is going to say, what is the prejudice to you? Just because the person was late by a little bit of time, that you're saying that disentitles that person from getting all these benefits and legitimately this person is disabled? Doesn't work that way. And so we've had quite a few cases where we were very successful, again, not just a month, but months and months and sometimes even years, where people did not apply for long-term disability for any number of reasons, and we were able to get the insurance company to reverse course and pay the money out. But without us stepping into the picture, people out there don't understand what those legal mechanisms are and how to deal with those situations. I want to do some quick math for you, John. This gentleman here was entitled to, by my calculations, to about $4,500 per month.
Okay.
My math, as good as it is that this equates to $54,000 a year. 2 years is already over $100,000 that he is potentially entitled to. 5 years, that's $270,000. It's over $250,000 in benefits. I'm not even talking about if it extends and goes beyond 5 years. So my point is, people don't understand often that they are leaving substantial amount of money on the table when you are simply accepting the insurance company's denial without questioning it, without talking to us and understanding what your legal rights are. And sometimes I'll tell you, yes, the insurance company is correct. You're not entitled to the payments. More often than not, when people call me and I do the analysis, I most often conclude, no, the insurance company is incorrect. Here's what we can do. Here's a menu of options of how we can force them to pay you what you're owed. And that's what I did with this gentleman eventually.
Is that type of play more common if it's, and we know insurance companies have reams of data about, statistics. If it's somebody in that case where they're potentially looking for maybe decades of payments, so those are the ones that are going to zero in and look for something like relief of forfeiture, or at least what triggers that mechanism? Is that who they're going to go after most often?
Not necessarily. Okay. It's logical, but you're giving insurance companies way too much credit. Okay. No, it's an adjuster who's looking like in a black and white manner over the application and saying, you're late by a day, by a week, by a month, by whatever, we're just going to deny the claim. And the logic is, I think, more sinister than that. And I say sinister with the full context of the word. I think that they are betting that the vast majority of people who are denied these claims, when they send you a denial letter, they're betting you will walk away from the money that's owed to you. Moreover, they are betting that you will not seek legal advice from someone who knows about what it is that you can do to force them to pay you. That's just the way insurance companies work. I used to work for them almost 20 years ago, and I can tell you, I've seen a lot of stuff on the other side. And that's just the way they work. They like to collect as much money as they can from you, from me, from you, from anybody else, and pay as little as possible. It's the business model. Yeah. So you got to know when to stand up for your rights, when to get us in the picture so we can help you understand what your rights are. And by the way, it doesn't mean that then you need to do anything. It just means that you are educated. I'm just here to educate people to make sure they understand what their rights are so the insurance company cannot take advantage of you. It's a good one, though. It's like totally disabled. I'm sure it shakes a lot of people off saying, you were late, man. You should have applied a month ago. You've passed the deadline. It's like missing your flight at the airport. Sorry, you got to pay for another ticket. Like, we can't help you. So it's, to your point, probably works pretty well for them. I'll tell you more than that, John. Oftentimes there's gaslighting involved. You know, when they do surveillance on you or they're telling you you're not totally disabled and you're like, yeah, no, I'm not totally disabled. I can't do my job, but I'm not totally disabled, because you think totally disabled means I have to be on bed, 24 hours a day, which is not what that means. So yeah, I mean, look, they're in the business of denying claims so they can make as much profit as possible. Sure. It's that simple. Pocket Disability Lawyer, kind of a cool website. Break it down for me. So that's a website that many, many people across the country have used over the last, I don't know, half year or more than that we've had it on. It's a free website. It's anonymous. It's quick. It allows you to get answers to your questions about your short-term or long-term disability question or issue or case. And it's free, again, anonymous, and it's for people who don't want to necessarily contact us directly. They feel timid, they're afraid for whatever reason. I mean, we're nice people, but you don't want to, don't Google your questions, because most likely you're going to end up on a website that doesn't give you the right information or not relevant information. Remember, the laws are different from country to country, from state to state, from province to province. Yep. You have to be very careful that you're getting the right information. So that website, pocketdisabilitylawyer.ca, we've created it for people out there who don't want to call us as the initial thing that they're doing. They want to just go online, go to that website. You're going to get answers to your questions. Another option for you is weekly join Sivan and I and some other lawyers in the firm on our weekly radio shows, pretty much across the country. We've been doing it for years. You can tune in for your market, find the station, and you have the opportunity to call in as well and ask your questions for most of those shows. Disabilityrights.ca is where you want to go. Let's get to a call, Sivan, from one of our radio shows and see what comes out of this one.
Working with a big company for 23 years. The last 3 years, I've been on disability because of cancer and doing chemo and recovery. Now, the insurance company wants me to go on to CPP. I'm concerned that I may be able to go to work in maybe a year or so. I'm not sure once I go on CPPD what that means for me.
Great question.
Great question. Yep. And John, another website, not to throw too many out there, that people can go to get a lot of the answers for their questions is ltdfaq.ca. Yep. It's a website we created that has free memos in plain speak, and one of them talks about CPP Disability, what it is, why you should apply for it if you're an LTD. For insurance companies to ask you to apply for CPP Disability is completely normal. They're interested in you applying for it and getting it, because if you get CPP Disability, it reduces the amount that they have to pay you. You don't get them stacked. It doesn't go one on top of the other. But if you do get approved for CPP Disability, your disability claim arguably is strengthened because now the government has recognized that you are disabled. So I tell people, go ahead and do it. If you don't do it, the insurance company may guesstimate how much it is that you ought to be getting and then reduce your LTD payments accordingly. So, you don't have to worry about applying. You should apply. If at some point you go back to work and you don't need it, well, then you stop CPP Disability. I mean, it's just like LTD. So there's nothing to be afraid of, and we can help you with that. Again, you have any questions about the forms or what to do, it's all free. I mean, we help people with that all the time. We have a great team. We answer these kinds of questions, John, day in and day out.
Let's take a short pause. On the other side, we'll get to our main topic. That is fast facts about anxiety disorders and disability claims. That is just ahead, so stick with us as we continue more of the Disability Law Show. Hang in there. People think contractors aren't owed severance. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. Many contractors are actually employees and are entitled to full severance pay. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca. How do you force insurance companies to pay long-term disability claims?
Insurance companies deny legitimate claims all the time. They're playing the odds. They know that most people are just going to walk away.
Your insurer may ignore you, they may even ignore your doctors, but they can't ignore us.
We know how insurance companies work. We know their weaknesses. We know how to use the legal process to force them to pay you what you're owed.
Go to disabilityrights.ca. Discover your rights, fight back, and get what you're owed. People think you are only owed 2 weeks' pay when you lose your job. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. You may be owed much more than 2 weeks per year. Don't settle for less. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca. All right, welcome back. Disability Law Show. Thank you so much for sticking with us through the short break. There's always a main topic on every show. It's all in order to make you smarter, right? This week it is fast facts about anxiety disorders and disability claims. Number one, right here, Sivan, you can claim long-term disability benefits for anxiety, even though it may be difficult to diagnose. Now we're talking x-rays and all that stuff. We've talked about this before, right? We have.
And anxiety is one of those conditions where sadly, most people have it to some degree. The question is it debilitating enough to stop you from being able to work? And sometimes it morphs into other conditions, could be depression, it could be other types of conditions. This is kind of within the constellation of psychological disorders, illnesses, conditions, call it whatever you will. And some of these are so significant or become so significant for any number of reasons where people simply cannot work and they need treatments, and they go and get treatments from psychotherapists, psychologists, psychiatrists. Look, if you are unable to perform the tasks of your employment, of your occupation, because of severe anxiety, and your doctors say that and they back you up, you should get LTD benefits. The insurance company can't say, sorry, that's just not enough, or we don't have any medical proof or sufficient documentation, as I often see, or you're not disabled enough, totally disabled. No. If you have anxiety, which is a recognized condition, okay, if you have that and it is severe enough that your doctors are saying you need to be off work, then the insurance company must pay you. And if they don't, we can force them to pay you.
And as you know, quite often with that, if it goes on long enough, it can manifest in physical impairments too.
100%.
And now you're twice eligible. Really?
Psychosomatic, 100%. I mean, look, how many times people have had issues. I see this with chronic pain a lot, fibromyalgia, a variety of other conditions where you either have a physical ailment or injury, which then morphs leads to psychological, and vice versa, right? I mean, if you're anxious and depressed and all that, you can be lethargic, you can start having memory issues, you can start having tons of performance-related issues, no appetite. Again, this is when you should be getting medical help. And again, as long as you have medical professionals who are telling you you should be off work and they put that in writing, the insurance company should honor that and put you on LTD. And if they don't, we can step in.
Fast fact number two, insurance companies try to deny legitimate claims for anxiety for a number of different reasons, right?
Yeah, and you know, John, we talked about this before, these invisible illnesses, these things where you can't see on an x-ray. You cannot see anxiety on an x-ray. You can't see my headache on an x-ray either. Maybe you can see it on an MRI, God forbid if there is an issue, but the point is we don't have diagnostics that can literally tell you that somebody is anxious. When I mean diagnostics, I mean things like an x-ray, a machine that can do that. You go to doctors, you go to specialists, you go to people who can diagnose you. And again, as long as you have that, then the insurance company should pay you. But insurance company will use any number of reasons. The two most common ones that I see for anxiety, depression, phobias, and those kinds of ailments is when they tell you, number one, you're not totally disabled, which is complete garbage. If your doctors are saying you cannot work, it means you are disabled. And number two, insufficient medical documentation. I've also seen, there's a third one, insufficient objective medical data or evidence. It means that they can't see it on an x-ray, which again is circular logic. It makes no sense, right? Because you can't see anxiety on an x-ray or MRI or a CT. If you are suffering from one of these conditions or a bunch of these conditions, and you have people who are treating you who are saying you should be off work, the insurance company should accept that. If they don't, again, we can step in and help you force the insurance company to pay you what you're owed.
We're talking about 3 fast facts about anxiety disorders and disability claims. Number 3 is this: a disability lawyer can help strengthen your LTD claim and help you, especially when it's denied. Right?
Look, what we do as disability lawyers is no different than somebody does as an employment lawyer, or even if you go outside of law, you need electrical help, you call an electrician. You need something with your plumbing, you call a plumber. Mm-hmm. You can do some stuff by yourself, but there is a limit because it's not your profession. Same thing here. We can help you understand what your rights are under your long-term disability policy, or short-term disability for that matter, right? You can have both. And what's key to understand is you don't have to wait until you're denied your claim to reach out to us. If you have a claim, if you have an application, you put an application and the insurance company is not responding for weeks or months, and you want to know what's going on, what your options are, again, you give us a call, you email us, you go on one of our websites. We are here to help you to educate the public. We are here to even the playing field with these insurance companies who are hogging all this knowledge and betting on people not knowing what their rights are. So, there's no reason not to call us, not to pick our brains. We have a big team. Some of our lawyers, like myself, have worked for insurance companies in the past, so we know the other side. Really, John, I can't stress this enough. It doesn't cost anything to speak to any one of us. Once you get empowered, once you know what your options are, your level of anxiety goes down because you now understand the playing field with this insurance company. You understand what they can do or can't do to you. It's very empowering. It's actually, I can tell you, John, I've met with so many people, couples, families, individuals, over the last 2 decades or so. The biggest joy that I get is not even from, resolving the case for people and getting the insurance company to pay, is knowing that I've been able to give people comfort and being able to reduce their anxiety, to tell them, I'll deal with this, or we'll deal with this. Or at least, if they don't want us to deal with it, at least they know what their options are. They've been educated. To me, that's a massive thing when they breathe a sigh of relief. You see the weight slide off their shoulders, come off their shoulders.
Well, it's interesting you say that because we've often mentioned, I think it's key when you're talking in the disability, or at least in the anxiety and mental disorder complex, that once you guys take over, the insurance company can no longer legally knock on they have to deal with you. Right?
Absolutely true.
Talk about relief.
Most people don't know this, right? I mean, I can tell you, the majority of people when I speak with, they'll tell me that when they get an email or a call or a letter from the insurance company, their blood pressure shoots up completely. They can't sleep sometimes, they have no appetite, nothing. And I tell them that once we step into the picture, all communications must come to us. By law, the insurance company can no longer deal with you directly. Imagine the relief. Imagine me being able to tell someone, and this is again a joy that I get, focus on your health, focus on getting better. Let me deal with the insurance company. They've been applying pressure on you. Let's reverse that. Let me apply pressure on them. Focus on your health. Do your treatments, sleep, do what you need to do. We will take care of the rest.
We have lots more to get through, some emails and stuff like that you've been sending in over the last week, so we'll follow up on those briefly. We'll take a short break and get right back into it. In the meantime, always call Sivan. It won't cost you a penny. Have a chat, have a consultation. 1-855-821-5900 is that number. We'll continue more of the Disability Law Show momentarily.
People think you have to sign back a severance offer by a deadline. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. Deadlines are used as a pressure tactic. Make sure the offer is fair before you sign. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca. Can insurance companies deny long-term disability claims for mental illness?
When you're suffering from a mental health disability, insurance companies just don't understand. But we do.
They can absolutely not force you back to work. If your doctors say you are not ready and you know you're not ready, they cannot make you go back to work.
If you have a mental health disability and your claim is denied, don't give up. Give us a call and let us fight for you.
Go to disabilityrights.ca. Discover your rights, fight back, and get what you're owed. People think you aren't owed severance pay if you are fired for a reason. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. Most for-cause terminations are false, and you are still owed full severance. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca.
Welcome back. Disability Law Show. A few minutes to go. Always reach out to Sivan and his team. It won't cost you a penny to make a phone call, write an email, 1-855 821-5900, help@disabilityrights.ca. Email, as promised, Anthony writes in for this week. Sivan says, I work in the manufacturing industry and have been off work for a year due to a back injury. While on leave, I began experiencing debilitating mental health symptoms. My initial disability claim was based on my back injury. Do I need to update my claim to include these new concerns? Will this lead to a cutoff? Great question.
Great question, and that happens quite a lot. And we talked about this in the previous segment, John, that oftentimes physical injuries end up manifesting as well psychologically and vice versa, right? I mean, we are not separate from our mental or psychological state. My suggestion would be, Anthony, is that if in fact you're unable to work now as a result not just of your injury, but also as a result of your psychological issues, absolutely. Your doctor should absolutely provide that information to the insurance company. You should update the insurance company. It will not lead to a cutoff. If anything, I actually think it will strengthen your claim because it means now that there are multiple reasons why you cannot work. Presumably you're getting treatments for those issues now, in addition to the back issues. And so, from that perspective, now you have more people on your side, professionals who can tell the insurance company, here's why Anthony still needs to be home, still needs to go through treatments to get better before he even attempts to go back to work. But, John, this brings me to another point, which is insurance companies will often say, you're being disingenuous. You didn't tell us about this before. Maybe this is a new disability. Again, they will try and find any which way to characterize what you're telling them or what your doctors are telling them to somehow show that you are not truthful or somehow show that you are not, abiding by your obligation on the policy. And I tell people, as long as you're being truthful, as long as your doctors are being truthful, as long as you are telling the insurance company exactly how it is, you're not underplaying your symptoms, you're not overplaying your symptoms, you're simply explaining this is what I can and cannot do, and your doctors back you up, the insurance company cannot do anything to hurt you. They can try, again, that's where we step in, that's where we can dispel the myths and give you information. But no, always be truthful, give the insurance company what they need, what they ask, within reason, of course. I say within reason because sometimes insurance companies ask for ludicrous information and stuff that's irrelevant. But again, you have any questions, just give me a call. Give me a call, email me. You're going to get a response very quickly for someone on my team, either myself or a colleague. And we're not going to beat around the bush. We're going to give you the information you need.
That point you said about the insurance company saying, well, you didn't tell us about this earlier, that kind of makes me think, and one of the reasons when I read Anthony's email, he should do it right away in case he lets this linger for 6-7 months. Oh, by the way, now I've got anxiety. Well, you should have told us about that 6 months ago. Get on it. There's really no bad point to telling them about this and getting your doctor to back you if it's gone mental as well.
I agree. And don't forget that the insurance company will ask periodically for updated medical reports and documents. It's going to make its way. They're going to know. They're going to ask you, why didn't you tell us this?
No.
So again, truth is king. Do not embellish. Be very honest and frank. And, if you're able to go back to work, go back to work. If you can't, you can't. And the insurance company must respect that. And if they don't, that's when we come in. Again, I keep saying that. But you need to understand, I tell that to people, John, because I want people to understand that we have your back. We will be here. If they do anything to you that they're not supposed to, we can give you your options. And you can decide how you want to how you want to deal with the insurance company. But you're not powerless, you're not helpless. It feels that way because the insurance company looks like this billion-dollar company, this David and Goliath scenario that we keep talking, John. And I keep saying over and over, remember, David and Goliath, who won that battle?
That's right.
David won that battle. Do not be bullied, do not be afraid by the insurance company. I'm talking about as somebody who used to work for the insurance company. Companies, actually, many.
Yeah.
You do not want to feel afraid. They will prey on you if you feel afraid. And this is why we're here, to make sure you're not.
Another website you can use anytime. It's free. It's anonymous, called mydisabilityquestions.com. That one's a beauty because it's built to be searchable. So a question similar to yours may have been asked and answered in the past, but feel free to use it, mydisabilityquestions.com. Vanessa from that website says, I've been receiving long-term disability benefits for the past 10 years due to a progressive medical condition. Recently, I received a letter from my insurer presenting me with a lump sum payment buyout. I'm entitled to receive benefits until I turn 65. I'm currently 54, so we're like 11 years, right? Should I accept this offer? This is good because sometimes that seems really attractive. even though it might,
For sure.
it shouldn't be, but it does. Right?
100%, John. And this happens quite a lot. Remember, Vanessa here has been on LTD for 10 years. So we're beyond the 2-year mark, which means the insurance company has recognized that her disability is long-standing. She cannot perform any occupation for which she's suited for. It's severe. They're trying to get out of paying her until 65 for a fraction of the cost that it will cost them. Let me do some quick math for you, okay? Let's assume that she's entitled to $2,000 a month in LTD benefits. Multiply that by 12, you get $24,000 a year. I have the math right here. For 11 years, that's $264,000.
Right.
If she gets offered $50,000, which is a fifth approximately of
that seems like a big check,
it
though.
is a big, it looks like a big check, but it is a fraction of what she's entitled to. And the insurance company is interested in shutting down this file, because if they can get 10 Vanessas to sign on, they've saved themselves how many millions of dollars? So look, it's up to Vanessa to decide if she accepts it. Most people, what they try to do is try to negotiate or ask us to negotiate. My experience in general has been that insurance companies do not negotiate these lump sums. I'm not saying it never happens. That's just my experience. But if somebody asks me, should I accept 50 grand when I'm potentially owed over $250,000 over the next 11 years? I'm sorry. For me, I would tell the insurance company, no, you're going to continue paying me. And if something happens and the insurance company pulls the plug for whatever reason, this is when you contact me. So again, it's up to Vanessa to decide. I've seen people choose or to accept or not choose to accept, as long as you understand why the insurance company is offering this to you. They're not doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing this so they can get out of the obligation of paying you a lot of money for a fraction of what otherwise they would have to pay you.
Let's get Charles' email in there quickly. Final one for the show. Says I was off work for almost 2 years and am now on a gradual return to work schedule. Working every other day has helped, and my doctor supports this plan, advising against full-time until my medication changes. Unfortunately, my insurer insists I return to full-time, and they plan to end my benefits soon. What can I do? Stressful.
For sure. Yeah. Completely stressful. So first of all, Charles, you have absolutely zero obligation to do what the insurance company is telling you to do. They cannot force you to go back full time. In fact, I would tell you that's very, very inappropriate of them to do, very irresponsible of them, because starting or trying to get back to work full time against medical advice could actually lead to the downfall of your attempt to go back to work. So what I tell people to do, John, in this case, is do not follow what the insurance company is saying. Follow what your doctors are telling you. Work with your doctor. If the insurance company cuts off your benefits prematurely, we will help. We will force them to pay you what you are owed. Do not, absolutely do not do what the insurance company is telling you to do if that goes against what your doctors are telling you to do. That's just a very general rule, John. It's never led anyone wrong. I have seen people who try to go back to work prematurely. It's ended up in disaster. Now remember, if you're unable to go back to work, if for whatever reason you got to go back on LTD, the insurance company has to put you on there, right? It's called a recurrence clause. You should be able to get back on LTD if you're within that time period. Usually it's about 6 months or so, depending on the policy. And again, any issues with your insurance company, you give us a call and we'll help you.
But you don't want to choose it yourself. It has to be through your doctor. It's got to be legit. You know what, Doc? I'll try. No.
Listen to your doctors.
Yeah.
Listen to your doctors.
Yeah. That could be the problem that Charles runs into if he doesn't decide to just forego what his doctor says. If he panics, again, he could be panicking, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If he doesn't understand exactly what his rights are and what the insurance company can and cannot do.
Charles, appreciate that last email. That's all we got time for this week, but feel free to keep sending them along to Sivan and his crew. I'll give you the phone numbers as we wrap up here for another week. Always call it, free consultation. Have no fear of just calling and asking for some information. 1-855-821-5900, the number. Email we always go to, help@disabilityrights.ca. And that website where we got the questions, whether it's anonymous completely, mydisabilityquestions.com. It's built to be anonymous. It's also searchable, so maybe your question's already in there, and we'd like to save you some time. That can be the way to do that. Again, mydisabilityquestions.com. Other than that, always call Sivan and his crew, and you'll be in good hands. Thank you so much for tuning the show in this week, and we'll catch you next week right here on the Disability Law Show.